Well, hello traders, Chris Weston here, Head of Research at Pepperstone. And today we're looking around the markets and we're seeing somewhat more sanguine conditions. Of course, yesterday, most of the reaction was to a market that was probably a little bit overbought. Certainly that was the case in rates and fixed income. But certainly in equities, we're seeing a situation where markets were taking a little bit of froth off the top on the idea that we saw this really strong non-farm payrolls number, at least on the headline, relative to consensus. And the market said, well, that probably gives us the Fed less scope to ease by 50 basis points. And we saw a reaction in the rates market as well. Today we're more focused around what Powell will say tomorrow night when we come into Powell's testimony to the House committee, and the idea that he will effectively look at market pricing, look at where economics are, and guide us to greater expectations. There's a reason why FX volatility is so low at the moment and so suppressed, and that's because we have quite predictable central bank policy. The Fed and other central banks use forward guidance in the idea of guiding markets to where they're going to be, and he will potentially use this meeting, this testimony to the Senate, to the House committee, to the idea that he could look at market pricing and dictate whether they're on the right track with this 25 basis point cut, or if they're too overzealous in the idea that they're not going to cut rates and we're going to get this huge surprise, he could actually guide us in that situation. I've talked about it more in my daily fix, my daily research piece. You can sign up to it in the disclaimer below, or if you haven't seen today's piece, do check the website. You'll be able to see that in the market analysis section, or do reach out to one of the support staff and we'll send it through to you. But if you have a look at the markets today, I think one of the currency crosses we're looking at is dollar yen. Now, if you look at the boards, you can see that currently trading 108.83. It's up a little bit across most of the pairs. You're actually seeing some very, very modest US dollar buying. So as we're going into the Powell testimony, the market is probably saying that on balance, he's still seeing positivity around the US economy, potentially leaning towards a wait and see approach, but certainly this idea that we're going to get a 25 basis point cut is still very much in there. This line that he recently famously quoted, saying an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, has given a few people scope to believe that they could really try and step in front of this. But the way the US dollar's trading today is suggestive that they're probably going to be more on the sort of wait and see approach, giving us triggers that they will cut by 25 basis points. And if you look at that dollar yen number and the daily chart, you can see it breaking above this horizontal resistance level. It's gone through the neckline of the inverse head and shoulders pattern. It does argue that the dollar has some further over scope, but at least that's the way that the market's trading this at the moment. Euro dollar, just pushing those lower levels of 112. Cable, we're seeing a few sellers creeping in, and I think if you get a break of that 125 level, we can go down to those recent lows about 124.82. There's been a lot of talk around Remainers trying to push for this continuation of this no deal Brexit idea, which has failed in the courts so far, but that's something that they would be looking to push through. But yeah, absolutely, all eyes next week on whether Boris Johnson will get us what most people expect, become the next Prime Minister or the Tory leader in that capacity, and will there actually be a reaction should he come in? Most people have been predicting that for some time, but certainly cable's trading a little bit heavy in that situation. Throughout the session, of course, we have seen NAB business confidence and NAB business conditions numbers. If we're just looking at news today, the confidence numbers did pull back from 7 to 3. That you could argue that caused a little bit of a reaction in the Aussie dollar. We've seen some selling coming through. Aussie CAD is a cross that's very much on my radar ahead of tomorrow's Bank of Canada rate decision. But certainly, that's testing the lower echelons of that recent range. And I think if you get a break of that recent pivot, that could suggest that we're going to see a continuation of this bearish trend. So Aussie CAD very much on the radar. Now, in terms of what the NAB business confidence did to pricing, well, we're still seeing about a 16-17% chance that we get another cut at next month's meeting. There's about a 55% chance that we get a cut in November. So the market's saying on balance, knowing what we know, and we'd have to see next week's jobs number, is that we'll probably on balance get a rate cut in November when we get to Melbourne Cup. Across equity markets, you can see it's largely a sea of red, but certainly the calls are pretty placid at the moment. You've got the S&P down 14 handles, Wall Street cash down about 82 at the moment. You've got the German market DAX down 92, and I think that's quite interesting because we're back after a break, back to come and test that former breakout level, as is the case of the FTSE, which is testing the 23rd of April high. What we really like to see is when we get those breakouts is a retracement to test and now ultimately confirm that breakout point is now support. So a rally off this level would be very, very positive indeed. So we're watching those as well. As I say, Asian markets a little bit lower, certainly Hong Kong down 208 at the moment. We've got the Japanese market probably reacting to that higher dollar yen. Gold prices as well, ahead of tomorrow's Powell testimony, down 1 point, very solitary 1 point, but we're seeing the second or third inside day as well, and that needs to rectify itself. And we've got that, the neckline of the double top coming in 1381. I think that obviously needs to hold, otherwise we're going to see a much more protracted move in gold. So a lot of good setups to watch on the day here.